Disclaimer. Do not send any type of harassment or negativity towards the creators that I review. This includes hateful comments, mass paying the creators, dislike spamming, and toxic videos about them. This video is for entertainment purposes, and even then, what I say could be wrong, so please take my videos with a grain of salt. Enjoy! It seems like the dude who tried to cook the Indom 2.0 is now getting cooked himself. Anyways, Goji Center's responding to this guy, Shadows. As you can see here,
they try and ground it with some realism, and we're going to try and do exactly the same thing to debunk this Indominus Rex 3.0. Now remember,
already starting off with, saying Indom 3.0 instead of Indom 2.0, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know where bro got 3.0 from, but okay.
70% of this genome is made up of small animals. So
assuming that every single animal shares the same percentage in, the Indom 2.0.
Well, 30% of the T-Rex and the Saurophagonax are not going to off-put that, but was going to go berserk, turn into some type of sociopath, worse than the original Indominus Rex. It'd probably be around the size of a velociraptor.
Which is just completely and utterly insane.
The natural predator to a great ape is weakness to humans. They've used the Saurophagonax clearly for its teeth, the serrated jaws. So the genomes here, they're non-aggressive. Huge weakness to human pathogens. Indominus Rex 3.0. 3.0 is exactly the same as the 2.0.
Bro really tried to create a human DNA thing, thinking bro could get away from the Hall of Shame.
Well, looks like this just keeps happening, and people never learn.
As you can see here, Dangerous Primatus Rex, Shadows TBD. Okay.
If there are any two words the internet has ruined when it comes to debates, it's, well, actually...
In terms of power scalars as well. Well, actually, the Indominus 1.0 can defeat the Indominus 2.0 because the Indominus 1.0 has a bunch of crazy feats that the Indominus 2.0 does not have.
But looks...
No, at least according to power scaling logic.
Like it's our turn, because a certain someone wanted to weigh in on the hybrid that the internet has collectively decided to try and kill.
There's still my video as well. There's also a new video called, to defeat the Indom 2.0, there's my hybrid. Is it new? Okay. They all appeared in Hank. They all appeared in Dangerville's response. They all appeared in Goji Center's response to Primatus Rex. As you can see here, this is...
Someone thought they were onto something and thought they could seriously school Goji Center about our own creation before throwing their own name into the ring. Our response? Take a seat. You might learn something for your own creations. Because today on Goji Center, class is once again in session.
Well, I already covered the basics of Samson, and so basically, I'm providing a basis for Goji Center to try and respond to Samson with.
The report in scrutiny for today, a video published by YouTuber Shadows, who made a few statements that cannot be forgiven. Shadows' video tackled the subject from an interesting angle. Granted, the Jurassic franchise has always had a fickle relationship with realism. On one hand, the animals involved are supposedly to be completely normal flesh and blood animals. On the other hand, some amount of fantasy for the sake of spectacle is always to be expected in fiction.
And of course, the power scales will use all of them as feats. Meanwhile, Goji Center and a bunch of their fans like them, they just brush it off as movie magic because it's just inconsistent in the end.
Still though, there's always going to be limits when you're not talking about something with flat-out kaiju like the Godzilla franchise. When we began talking about and introducing our own hybrids back in 2023, it was common consensus amongst everyone watching that hybrid creation like this in the real modern-day world is flat-out impossible due to many real-life genetic hurdles that need to be bypassed.
Which includes a bunch of extracting DNA from extinct creatures that went extinct a long time ago, and some of their DNA, they were just completely gone. It's just completely impossible at this point.
That is, being able to extract DNA from extinct species that died off millions of years ago. Beyond that, the next challenges would be selecting genetic contributors that will mostly positively create a build for a brand new animal with a specific purpose.
For mine, it's just a semi-aquatic, hippo-minded, gigantic hadrosaur. Okay. Mine is also ecosystem based, and while it can probably win against the Indom 2.0 sometimes, I mean, it's my main purpose here of my hybrid is 1, to defeat the Indom 2.0, 2, to to try and show that herbivores are not weak. That's pretty much it.
Which in the 2.0's case is to create a primarily terrestrial creature whose purpose is to act as a localized extinction event, driven to wipe out entire ecosystems, including all life forms, and reproduce quickly to attain said goal. That's it! We've been pretty clear about that from the start, and if you've been carefully following this hybrid fiasco, you'd probably know this quite well.
Indominus 2.0 has entered the chat. As you can see here, 43 feet in length. Power scale would argue that Indom 2.0 is 55. Indominus Rex 1.0 is around 55 feet in length, which I'd probably argue is but at the same time, it's just inconsistent ASF, so.
Unlike Shadows, who probably skimmed through plenty of videos and posts that mentioned this repeatedly, and for some odd reason kept calling it 3.0? It was at this point when we knew this was going to be fun. Come on, dude, it's 2.0. Where did the 3 come from?
Where did 3.0 come from? Is it because of Hank, right? Jesus. What even is this now? Ugh.
This, maybe? Anyone who actually watched the video would know the 3.0 is completely unnecessary. Additionally, before revealing their creation like other infamous
Bro is Primatus Rex's little brother. Long lost brother, it seems like.
Examples like Goji Guy's Hank and Dangerville's Primatus. Goji Guy's Hank and Dangerville's Primatus.
It's the absolute worst of them all. Ugh. At least it's not stupidly oversized like ones like the Xenonautosaurus, which not only is 400 tons, but also use xenomorph DNA for whatever reason.
Shadows thought it would be a good idea to nerf the 2.0 as much as they could by trying to smack it with the realism stick.
Okay. Actually, could a power scale have entered the battlefield? Because, you know, if a power scale were to enter the battlefield... Hold on. I feel like there would be one power scaler which would try and kill the Indom 2.0 with the original Indominus. But I feel like most power scalers, like ones I know, they don't. So they don't, and they actually create hybrids based on realism, so...
Let's investigate some of the claims before we completely debunk these statements. And at the end, we'll see who wields this metaphorical stick better.
Sharpened metal pole. This is a sharpened metal pole.
Stick better.
Goji Center is aware of the sharpened metal pole stuff. The Indom 3.0 would be around the size of a velociraptor, man. When I first heard that claim, my jaw just dropped. Like, what? What even is this claim supposed to be about? It's just, why?
One of the bold claims that Shadows put forth is that the 2.0 would be far smaller than the Indominus Rex, producing some graphs claiming that the 2.0 was a runt, also mentioning that the large size of the Indominus Rex was due to Giganotosaurus and additional big-bodied species in the genome, including Tyrannosaurus and Deinosuchus.
For once, I agree with Shadows here. But this is just one part of the statement that I agree with. The others, what even are them?
With the Giga additive removed from the 2.0 and the Deinosuchus swapped out with the African dwarf crocodile for more armor, the claim was that the small species like short-tailed shrew would shrink the 2.0 down to being a fraction of the size of the original. Except they seem to have forgotten something. Them.
T-Rex.
Contrary to other claims, viewers who remember our size chart videos might recall that Tyrannosaurus Rex currently holds the spot as the largest predatory dinosaur. Giganotosaurus is certainly up there as well, and any hybrid using a lot of one or both of them is going to wind up huge.
The T-Rex is the largest theropod, the largest land predator to have ever lived. The Giga comes in at second place.
Shadows claims that because Shrew is in the genome, its contribution would be enough to shrink the 2.0 down to halfway point.
I don't know why, I don't know what logic this is, because considering the Indominus 1.0 did not even shrink.
And also keep in mind what they're using as a basis is Jurassic World's logic. So here's how this goes. Under this logic, assuming that the 2.0 should be the size of a Velociraptor, the Indominus Rex, on the other hand, would technically also be reduced greatly.
That is
The use of cuttlefish
basically just Shadow's loophole. Shadow's logic loophole. It's just... Man. Did Shadows even read their own script? Read their own video? Rewatch their own video and consider if the Indominus Rex was actually shrunk? No! It wasn't.
greatly. The use of cuttlefish, pit viper, frog would also shrink the Indominus. But did it? No. The argument against this is that the Indominus Rex does have a greater number of larger animals in its genome. T-Rex, Deinosuchus, Giga, Therizinosaurus. But what Shadows doesn't seem to get is that these things do not affect the size of a hybrid as you think it does. One of the reasons is that when building a hybrid, step number one is always choosing a base genome.
As you can see, there's a T-Rex. A lot of creatures use the T-Rex as the base. Some use Spinosaurus, some use the Giga or something like that. No, probably not many people used Giga. Many used Paleoloxodon, some used Shantungosaurus, just yada yada yada. There's Triceratops as well.
This base genome is largely going to establish how large and what body type your hybrid will mostly resemble. What Shadows thinks we did, and everyone who participated in the hybrid war did, was that we all put animals in a blender and every creature contributed an equal amount to the animal's genome.
Which, for me at least, I don't think Shadows meant that. So, Goaty Center is kind of making a little bit of assumptions right there to try and further roast Shadows.
Which cannot be more wrong. The 2.0, for example, uses the base genome of T-Rex. According to more recent studies, it is now well established that T-Rex could in fact reach the size of 42 feet in length, with very few exceptionally large individuals probably breaching these sizes. So the length of the 2.0, regardless of the absent Giga, is still very much supported, which is the same case of the Indominus Rex. Had Shadows actually paid attention in our video introducing the 2.0, he'd know very well that the 2.0 was actually shrunk in size in comparison to a full-grown Indominus
Hold on, let's see.
Shrunk in size.
Yes, the Indom 2.0's hind limbs are shorter, as you can see here. Hold on, how about the tail measurements? They're about the same. They're about the same. I'd say the Indominus 1.0 should be a bit longer than the Indominus 2.0, but then again, Goaty Center, this is Goaty Center we're talking about. Their videos are good, but ultimately they have flaws in the end.
Comparison to a full-grown Indominus Rex, a sweet spot to better hunt down animals of smaller size classes.
But the Indominus 2.0 doesn't really have to hunt Gallimimus, because ambushing will always do the trick. It doesn't have to run to kill it.
But retaining enough mass to take down the big ones.
I mean, the Jurassic World sauropods are defenseless meat sacks that are just waiting to get killed by carnivores. It's basically the circle of life, but it's just twisted in a way that it just favors the carnivores so much. Jurassic World is basically just carnivore glazing.
The extra additions, such as longer ape arms, full body armor, shorter hind limbs, and Shrew's iron-covered teeth, were all possible thanks to advanced gene editing technology, seen in Jurassic World. But believe it or not, a form of this actually exists in real life. To further explain this, we won't use Jurassic Park's logic anymore. We'll go further. We'll use real-life examples.
This one is a glow-in-the-dark cat, broadcasted by CNN.
What you're looking at right now is a glow-in-the-dark cat. Thanks to real-life gene editing technology, geneticists were able to select a few genes from a jellyfish and add them to the cat's genome that builds the skin on the face of this cat. Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize the majority of this animal's genome is made up of house cats.
Yes. because they also look like house cats. At this point, what is Shadow's logic at this point? There's really not much to say about Shadow's logic other than, wow, your claims are extremely bold, but it's just not
Animal's
good.
genome is made up of house cats, not jellyfish. This kitty is not about to sprout stingers or need to live in water. Also, did the kitten shrink or increase in size? No. See? Careful, meticulous gene splicing is a real thing. And the reason this cat is the same size of a regular house cat is the same reason why the Indominus Rex turned out to be 40 plus feet in Jurassic World. And also why the 2.0, despite having small animals in its genome, is not the size of a raptor. So instead of splicing huge chunks for every genetic contributor in, the 2.0 was made by taking a real, biologically accurate Tyrannosaurus and swapping in different sized pieces of DNA depending on what was needed.
I don't see any raptor contributions here. So, bro should probably remove the raptor, but I think the raptor should be kept. Raptor was kept because it actually makes the Indom 2.0 have more congruity in terms of pouncing and raptor prey restraining. Yeah, I think that's why Goji Center decided to keep the Velociraptors, because of raptor prey restraint. Even though we're using the IRL Velociraptor, Goji Center back then did not really specify that they used IRL T-Rex and IRL Velociraptor, so I guess it's not really 100% Shadow's fault that they thought the Indom 2.0 used the T-Rex and Velociraptor from Jurassic Park. I myself also thought that T-Rex and Velociraptor were from Jurassic Park when it came to the Indom 2.0 analysis that I made, but Goji Center commented and clarified that they used IRL T-Rex and IRL Velociraptor instead of the JP ones, so yeah. They should have, they should have specified earlier that they used just real-life animals, including real-life T-Rexes and real-life raptors. So, I guess this is sort of a little bit of the problem.
This is how you make a hybrid. Not throwing everything in a blender, which is what the folks at Shadows are failing to understand. Note how the smaller gene sources for the 2.0 were largely restricted to isolated body parts, like the arms, teeth, skin, and egg-producing organs. Keep this in mind as we continue to revise Shadow's wild claims.
Great Ape made the Indom 3.0 some kind of sociopath.
Shadows tried to make a big deal about claiming the great ape DNA would be some kind of hidden weakness. Namely, that great apes have weak immune systems, and that they become violent and sociopathic when left alone. So the resulting hybrid would be a chaotic mess of a brute. At this point, the web has been flooded with horror stories, and a certain scene from Nope making it look like some of our nearest relatives turned into berserk psychopaths at the drop of a hat. Here's the reality check. Great apes, and especially chimpanzees, are not orcs. Chimpanzees can absolutely be violent. Just ask the various monkeys and game they dispatch. But has anyone else ever noticed the horror stories going around the web are always the same 3 cases over and over again? To give the Cliff Notes 2023 reevaluation.
Basically just human captivity causing a bunch of chimpanzees to go berserk. And it's kind of humans' fault.
By
the chimpanzees actually went berserk.
Anthropologist and war expert R. Brian Ferguson found that some of the Gombe chimpanzee wars casualties were probably the result of leopard attacks.
Leopard attacks. I didn't know about that because back then Gombe chimpanzee war. I've heard of Gombe chimpanzee war, but I've never thought that leopards actually killed chimpanzees. But I mean, it's not really surprising given that leopards really like hunting deer-sized primates. So,
Infamous face ripper Travis, for example, was a drugged animal kept in horrid conditions. And if anyone wants to bring up the attack at the animal sanctuary, we dare you to take a good look at the humans who targeted that couple after the fact and tell us the chimps were the only brutal ones here. Now, compare that to the thousands of other chimpanzees that are raised in isolation that didn't act out. If bad living conditions automatically turned chimpanzees into chaotic brutes, we'd be seeing attacks all the time. What Shadows tried to do in saying the 2.0 would be a senseless brute was take a tiny substrata of evidence and label every single chimpanzee in both the wild and captivity as a senseless maniac.
it's basically just saying that, every single object show community fan is woke. Every single object show community fan is just whatchamacallit at this point. They are...
This dude owes chimpanzees a public apology. The truth is that yes, chimps can be violent.
It's basically just saying every single wolf is... Okay. Every single wolf, every single lion are bloodthirsty monsters who love fighting to the death. Every single dinosaur. Bro probably got that info. Bro probably was inspired by Jurassic Fight Club at this point.
But
Again, it's probably false at this point. It's not really a true claim. It's just something that I made up for thin air, so sorry, Shadows.
they aren't really psychos. They definitely aren't more psychotic than a lion or a horse, animals that kill more humans annually than chimps. Now, if we wanted the 2.0 to be as berserk as possible, putting it in the same enclosure that the Indominus Rex lived in would get that job done.
And, I mean, the cuttlefish is already berserk. The short-tailed shrew, it makes the Indom 2.0 even more berserk.
But nowhere in any of our previous videos did we mention that the 2.0 was kept in such conditions. There was an awful lot of supposing going on in a video claiming to dissect something. One of the key points was that the 2.0 would be another basket case of mishmash traits like the Scorpius Rex.
Which couldn't be farther from the truth, because the Scorpius Rex is really just a failed just a failed hybrid, man. It's just a failed hybrid that is just not good at all. Why did Hank try and incorporate... Why did Gojo Guy try and incorporate Scorpius Rex into Hank in the first place? It's just... Without considering the Scorpius Rex's mind is already messed with. Jeez.
Issues were brought up like the Tyrannosaur DNA screwing up the eyesight or whiptail lizard contribution, leading it to drop its tail in the worst way possible, severely compromising it. In other words, a self-owning by the hybrid's own genome. Unfortunately for Shadows, this is not the case of the 2.0 electrocuting its own brain with zappy fish DNA like some Hall of Shame entries. Let's go through these claims one by one, because, boy, there are a lot of them.
Also added the whiptail lizard in. Again, that's presumably because the whiptail lizard can regenerate cells. I mean, the whiptail lizard drops its tail. Literally
The whiptail lizard, according to Shadow,
drops its tail.
Which, the Indominus Rex, the Indominus 2.0 didn't even have the whiptail lizard contribute to the tail. It only had whiptail lizard because of apomictic parthenogenesis, not because of its tail dropping capabilities. It's just extremely counterintuitive, man.
Literally
the whiptail lizard, according to Shadows, was added for regeneration and claimed it would affect the tail in falling off. This is something they made up out of thin air. Recall that the other genome additions were meticulously selected from each contributing animal. The only reason the whiptail lizard makes itself present in the 2.0's genome is for its sexual organs, the ability to reproduce asexually via apomictic parthenogenesis. This allows the 2.0 to reproduce exact copies of herself repeatedly without needing a mate. And that's it. Let's see what else Shadows made up.
couple it with the T-Rex's poor eyesight.
Which, that claim is also extremely false, because the T-Rex had binocular vision, especially the real-life T-Rex that Indom 2.0 uses. The T-Rex's eyesight... Look, the shrew's eyesight might compromise on the T-Rex's binocular vision, but I don't think the shrew was incorporated in the eyesight, so another free pass.
The eyesight. Here's yet another reminder that the 2.0 was not made with any dinosaurs from the Jurassic Park franchise. This one was made from real-life animals. This makes Shadow's claim that the eyesight of the 2.0 would be messed with obsolete. And even if it was a JP T-Rex that we used, note how this didn't even affect the original Indominus Rex or Indoraptor.
Comparing the original and the 2.0/3.0, you'll notice a stark contrast. It's missing several dinosaurs. In fact, the 2.0 has only 9 species of genome, where the original actually has 13. They decided to take out the Therizinosaurus, the Deinosuchus, the Giga, the Carno, the Ragoff.
Bro really thinks that more is more and less is less. Has this guy even seen Scorpius Rex before? The Scorpius Rex had a lot of contributors, but it ends up resulting in a creature that is just insane. Really, kind of insane. Because, Jesus. It's just not very congruent.
Next, the claim that the lesser number of genetic contributors in the 2.0 was a handicap couldn't be further from the truth. Let us introduce Shadows with a new word: congruity. Put very simply, the less contributors that share more characteristics, the better. In 2.0's case, 8 out of 9 of the contributors are vertebrates. 7 out of 9 have 4 limbs. 9 out of 9 dispatch prey with their hinged jaws. 5 out of 9 of them use their forelimbs for attack or locomotion. And the similarities go on and on.
As you can see here, look at this. Look. See, they actually clarified the great ape is from the chimpanzee. So, especially in my analysis of the Indom 2.0, Goji Center definitely saw that. They literally commented on it. Really. Allosaurus annex, formerly known as Saurophagonex. Good detail there. Saurophagonex is now dubious and it's now just a sauropod. Probably.
Go on and on. And every one of these animals contributed only what is required to make the 2.0 functional, with a larger percentage of them with agreeable instincts. For instance, dwarf crocodiles are known to be very reclusive around humans.
I didn't realize that.
Simply because we aren't on the menu and weight class. Shadows claimed that these are very passive, but try telling that to the reptiles, small mammals, and crustaceans it eats all the time. Give this animal a larger body and this thing would be a Caprasuchus reincarnated hunting us instead. This animal hunts on land more often, similar to the 2.0, does not use the death roll like other species, and of course comes with the perk of full body armor, which is why...
So my analysis on Richter is just... Could the African dwarf crocodile do a death roll? No. I didn't realize that. So it might reduce the congruity of the thing. Jeez. Probably should use Purosaurus instead.
Why this animal was picked over another larger croc with more conflicting instincts. Next up is the utter disrespect on the short-tailed shrew. This animal, if you remember correctly, and paid attention, was used primarily for its iron-ingrained teeth, venomous...
But at this point, I don't think Richter should do the death roll.
And of course, comes with the perk of full body armor, which is why...
Let's replay it. And we replayed it, and now... I feel like when it comes to Richter, Richter should not do the death roll, because Richter's genetic contributors just inhibited from doing the death roll. So, at this point, just use a Sarcosuchus or something. That thing does not do the death roll.
Why this animal was picked over another larger croc with more conflicting instincts. Next up is the utter disrespect on the short-tailed shrew. This animal, if you remember correctly, and paid attention, was used primarily for its iron-ingrained teeth, venomous saliva, and thrashing jaw motion when attacking, which works in tandem with the T-Rex's bite and very strong, deep-rooted teeth.
They've used the Saurophagonax clearly for its teeth, the serrated jaws.
No. Saurophagonax teeth were not present in the Indominus 2.0, like I said. I think I said that in the analysis. In my, whatchamacallit, not analysis, but like my response to Shadow's video before Goji Center uploaded their own response.
Saurophaganax clearly for its teeth, the serrated jaws.
No, this doesn't have Saurophaganax serrated teeth as Shadow so boldly claimed. We never said it did. The addition of the shrew did come with some attributes that initially may seem as drawbacks, but given the intended purpose of this animal, which is to kill everything, this is actually a good thing. Higher metabolism requires this creature to hunt more often and store its prey once it goes catatonic to eat for later.
So them great ape arms we can see on there wouldn't be all that big. They wouldn't even have them claws. Sure, they'd be quite muscular, but they wouldn't have them claws on the end of it.
This is what happens when a content farm tries to cook the Indom 2.0. They just come up with the wildest of claims ever. And basically, I'm saying Shadow's a content farm. No offense to this guy. No offense to Shadows, by the way.
But we can say that comes from the Velociraptor.
Which is... no. It just comes from the Saurophaganax. No. Or, sorry, not Saurophaganax. Allosaurus annex.
Velociraptor.
Shadows completely misunderstood the composition of the 2.0's arms, claiming that the arms would be small on a small hybrid, which we debunked this already, and that this thing won't have claws, which we clearly stated in the original video featuring the 2.0 that these came from Saurophaganax, or currently classified as Allosaurus anax indefinitely, not from a Velociraptor. The use of Great Ape for the 2.0 was for the following: providing fast twitch muscles for the enlarged arms, extra digits including a thumb for manipulating objects and using tools, and for an enhanced level of problem solving and intelligence.
As you can see here, the Indominus 2.0, gigantic chimpanzee that is... How can I describe the Indominus 2.0? It's a T-Rex with the mentality of a chimpanzee and a shrew that has all the armor of a dwarf croc and can
fully bolstered by
detect basically everything from pit viper because of pit viper. And that thing can also reproduce super quickly with whiptail lizard. It can pounce thanks to the T-Rex, Allosaurus annex, and Velociraptor. Especially Velociraptor.
T-Rex collaborative nature and heightened senses.
All I have to do is sneeze in front of the 2.0 and it will die. Which is just absolutely insane. This is probably the wildest and most craziest claim that is in a video. Oh my god, this is just completely stupid.
One of the wildly preposterous claims that sent ripples across Goji Center HQ was this one. One of the advantages of this hybrid and having a large dinosaur biology is resilience to smaller, lesser mammalian viruses. The statement that apes are highly vulnerable to a sneeze, for instance, would hold up had this creature been made up of mostly mammals with a predominant mammalian anatomy. This, however, isn't the case. The flesh and bone that makes up most of this hybrid is similar to that of a T-Rex, and the 2.0 influence of ape in the brain and arms isn't enough for it to be a detrimental kryptonite factor on its saurian immune system.
Man, I don't know what Shadows was smoking.
Besides, apes are already more resilient than people might think, with faster acting immune responses than most mammals. Additionally, the hybrid wouldn't have the compressed sinuses and snout that leads to infections apes like us might get. And any issues that do exist can be patched up by the dwarf croc and dinosaurian biology that is heavily resilient to mammalian viruses.
Man, the Indominus 2.0's teeth here, the teeth arrangement are just...
2.0 was made to be a great carrier of various viruses, able to survive holding those infections for a long time thanks to not being as badly affected as other animals.
I mean, the Indom 2.0 is trying to cause a localized extinction event, but its intentions are fine, but its ultimate goal is basically just beyond its intentions. Because, well, unintentional, because the Indom 2.0 is a vector for a lot of diseases, and they are able to transmit to humans, which could cause a global pandemic, and, of course, the Indom 2.0 pathogens with a horrendous mix of viruses and bacteria would mean that the human immune system might get overwhelmed, and it would be extremely contagious, causing even more deaths than a supposed localized extinction event. And because the whiptail lizard can reproduce, there's going to be a whole legion of Indominus 2.0s that really need to be contained. However, when it comes to creating a movie about the Indom 2.0, about to cause a localized extinction event, the military is going to be incompetent ASF. Basically like The Walking Dead. And eventually it would basically just force so many people to create so many hybrids. This would be a really cool movie, not gonna lie. Just showcasing everybody's hybrids, but, we also need a good story about it, so...
It might inevitably die after a long time once a strain mutates in such a way that it will prove lethal, but not before acting as a horrible bridge to so many pathogens for anything that came across it. We could keep going, but we covered just about all the big crazy claims mentioned in Shadow's deplorable demonstration of his understanding of the 2.0 and really hybrids in general. That hybrid they're making with human DNA? Well, all of you know where we're sending that hybrid.
Literally the Hall of Shame. Hall of Shame. At this point, the exhibit number 2 should be that thing. That GX Rex human hybrid thing. Just knocking Xenonautosaurus down to exhibit number 3. It's just... Why? Just... seriously. Subscribe. I should probably have a subscribe banner at some point. But anyway, yeah. Never try to cook the Indom 2.0. I, as a member, commented on Goji Center's never try to cook the Indom 2.0 because I know that I responded to that guy and bro tried to cook the Indom 2.0, but just failed miserably. Anyway, that's pretty much all there is. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all next week.